What is going on? Welcome back to Shed Built. In this episode, we're rebuilding our front brakes. So I'll give you guys a little bit of an update on the core conversion. At the moment we're at somewhat of a standstill with the whole process, being that we're now at the stage where we're going to be welding those mounts onto the chassis. So we're just waiting for the engineer to figure out a time where he can come out and just inspect everything. This is normally something that I'll do off camera, rebuilding these brakes, but since you guys want to see more videos, I thought that I'd just record this, make a short video on how to do it. Super simple, and it is really an effective rebuild. And it's something that I think if you're like me and like old four drives, then it's something that you should know how to do and you should do if need be. So with that said, let's get into it. Alright, so we've got our patrol front calipers here that need a lot of loving, as you can tell. So first thing I'm going to do is just start disassembling everything. Start with the calipers, then we can remove the anchor plate from the main housing, remove the pistons, and then give everything a good clean. Alright, now that we've got the anchor plate disassembled from the main housing, we can start to pop these pistons out. And to do that, I've seen little tools that you can buy, but all I use is a bit of compressed air straight down into the brake fluid inlet. I use a bit of wood on this side to catch the pistons, and as you compress the air through the inlet, it will start to pop these pistons out. Sometimes they can be a bit violent, they'll just explode, but hopefully this is what that bit of wood's for. Maybe a little face shield could also be a good thing. But compressed air in there, bang, see you later.
Sometimes they can be a bit violent, they'll just explode.
Alright, as you saw, we just removed the pistons. I did have a bit of dramas with one of them, actually on both calipers. One of them got stuck every time, so I just pushed the piston back into the cylinder that actually came out, clamped it in place, and then compressed the air again, which allowed the other stuck piston to come out. We've also removed the dust seals, which just sit into a little groove in here and they just peel out pretty easy. Now we can remove the guide pins. They are just a push fit into there using this dust seal again that just pries out, and we have to clean up these surfaces as well. But everything needs a clean, so I'm going to stick it all into the parts washer now, get rid of most of this gunk, it's disgusting, and then we can come back and see what's next. So I've let these calipers soak in rust blast powder from KBS Coatings Australia, and it's done a really good job at cleaning and neutralising a lot of that rust. So now we have a clean substrate for us to be able to paint over. But while I wait for these to dry, I'm going to address some of these caliper bolts, and to do that I'm going to use a technique called hot bluing, which I'll show you in a sec. With one of these guide pins, you saw it was completely seized inside the clamp. So I thought I'll order a new one of those, which sucks, but it is what it is. Remember, you wouldn't have to do any of this clean and preparation if your calipers are in a decent condition, but mine aren't, so again, it is what it is. we are finally ready to reassemble these brake calipers. Now I've got one laid out here and everything that we're going to need to do so, including our seals. This is just a minor rebuild kit. You can buy them locally, which is pretty handy. I'm reusing my original pistons because, as you can see, they are actually in really good condition. And every brake caliper that I've rebuilt, I've never had to actually buy new pistons. Most of the time you can just clean them up as well with a red Scotch-Brite pad, and they always come up pretty well. Although you can buy them anyway. So I've also got some red rubber grease and some copper anti-seize, which is definitely needed. So what we're going to do is tackle the pistons first. I'm going to lubricate the cylinders with some silicone spray on the piston and the cylinder walls, and then we're going to apply red rubber grease to our seals. Alright, I'll start with the piston seals. Some red rubber grease here. Get a nice film on there. I'll also chuck some inside the little groove there. So now this can just be inserted into the groove. Start at one side and work your way around. There we go, make sure it's sitting flat in there. You don't want it bending back over itself. Alright, now that we have our piston seals installed, we're going to install the piston and the dust seal. Again, using some silicone spray. Just going to lube up the piston. And also a little squirt inside the cylinder. Now I found the best way to install these piston seals. So I've greased the rubber seal using the red rubber grease. Now the best way I've found to install these seals is first, just get it onto the piston, pull it right down to the bottom, past its little groove, pull it down, all the way down until it hangs off about halfway, like that. So it's hanging off, the lip's sticking out a bit, and then install that into the cylinder and start at the bottom, get it seated into the groove, and then you can work your way around the top. Takes a couple of goes and they are pretty fiddly, but you will get there in the end. Alright, and there we go. Now have our piston sealed. It's in the grooves on both sides. Push our piston in. Shouldn't need mechanical force to get it in there. Should be able to slide in with your hands. Just like that, till the bottom's out. You can see our seal there is seated all the way around. Now we just repeat the same for the next piston, and we can move on. Now that our piston dust seals are installed, we can start working on these slide pins. I've already lubed them up using the red rubber grease, and that's what I'm going to be using for the lubrication because we've got lots of rubber parts here and they are quite delicate. So, I've rubbed the film over them. I'm just going to run a little bead of the rubber grease along the shaft, like that. That's probably heaps. I've sprayed a little silicone spray down the shaft. What I do here is insert it and just twist as I go. And there we go, the shaft's lubed up. So we grab our dust seal, bring it over and into the groove, bring it back in, and then just seat the next seal over the little lip and into its groove. There you go, it's nice and freely moving. Boom. Alright, we'll repeat the same for this side. Alright, and now we have both of our slide pins installed with their new seals. See there, we have nice free movement on both. Now we can install the anchor plate onto the main housing. Now if it wasn't obvious already, I have painted everything in KBS rust seal, and on all the mounting flanges I've just ground it back to bare metal. So using copper anti-seize now, I'll apply some onto the mating surfaces. So, bring the two flanges together now. of our bolts, some anti-seize. Alright, we've got a nut started. Send it in there a little bit. Get it started onto the anchor. Tighten these up with the torque wrench, get these hand tight for now. And there we go. We are basically done. Just gonna clean up all the excess grease and anti-seize. Boom. Okay. Chuck a new dust cap on there for the bleeder. Good to go. Alright, and we are done. Calipers are rebuilt, well lubricated and moving freely. Looking a hell of a lot better too. I'm still going to replace the copper washers, the brake lines and all the washer springs for the pads. But the calipers themselves are rebuilt and job's done. Alright, and that is it for another episode. Now, like I said, this is one of the more simple and effective restorations you can do. So if you have sloppy brakes and you feel like you've tried everything else, I'd definitely be looking into rebuilding your calipers, and you can do it for under 50 bucks. Now let me know in the comments below if this type of how-to video is something you want to see more of in the future when we've got a bit of downtime. Otherwise, I'll just keep doing them off camera and I'll show you to you in the main episodes. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, you know the deal, and I will see you next time. Cheers for watching.